So this is gonna be like a 15-20 minute video, maybe 10, just talking about the sawmill and the things that are involved with the sawmill. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll make sure everything's all set up. Give it a moment. Okay. Alrighty. So if I haven't, introduced myself, my name is Zach. My name is, pretty much Zachary, but I prefer everybody to call me Zach. Some people call me Zachary, and it's just kind of like, it's kind of weird. So I do prefer to be called Zach. So Wood by Wicks is my company. I've been in business for 15 years. My first business was remodeling houses, and that just kind of stumbled upon, full-time sawmill and woodwork. Outside of the sawmill, I, pretty much don't do anything but cut wood and sell wood. So this is kind of behind the cut. I'm gonna kind of talk about the wood miser and a few things that I need to do to get prepared for what's to come. So right now, all my chainsaws are ready to go. So this chainsaw is ready to go. This is gonna be the last chainsaw I'll pull out of the truck because it's like super sharp. It's the newest saw, and this is gonna be my primary saw. So it's a 661C. It has a 36-inch bar. Whenever I cut trees down, I'm typically gonna put the face cut in them. After I put a face cut, I like to plunge cut my trees, and I form my hinge, and the hinge is gonna, depend on, how big the tree is. So after I plunge cut these trees, I sever the inside of the tree. I will use wedges throughout that situation. And so like after I plunge cut a tree, I'll throw wedges in there just to kind of fulfill that gap so I don't get pinched with my saw. So I severed the entire inside of the tree, and then I put my wedges in there, and I kind of form a trigger on the backside. It's just like a smaller piece of wood that's holding the tree from wanting to go the way that I'm wanting to go. And it just allows me to actually cut that small portion of wood, and the tree goes, versus sometimes when people put a face cut in the tree, they'll come from the back side. They didn't do any plunge cutting. They'll come from the back side. That tree sometimes wants to move an inch or 2 inches, and that movement is bad because that movement causes cracks. So whenever I fall trees, I don't want my trees to move until they're completely severed, hinges in place, and they're ready to fall over. So that is going to take a proper face cut, plunge cut, form your hinge, sever everything out, place wedges accordingly. I have hundreds of these. I make them myself. They're walnut. So after you plunge cut the tree, you're going to put wedges in the tree. I do have videos actually on YouTube of me plunge cutting a tree. But anyway, so I'm going to put wedges in the tree, and then I'm going to have that trigger, and I'm going to be able to eat through that entire trigger, and it's not going to pull any of the good wood of the inside of the wood, and that it's going to kind of like prevent any like shake or anything like that. And sometimes I've seen people cut trees down in like barber chairs because let's say there's a lien on a tree and they just put a face cut and they come in from the back side. Well, typically that tree's gonna start falling over whenever you get halfway through, and that fall over, the tree will split in half, and sometimes the other half will come and smash you. So you gotta be very careful. I've cut thousands of different trees, lots of cedar trees, hundreds of walnut trees, and this mill and the other mill, I've cut over 10,000 logs. So I love what I do. Every time I use this sawmill, I do take it to the car wash and clean it, and it's just kind of the thing. So sometimes whenever I take this mill to people's properties, there's lots of bugs and all sorts of stuff. So typically people will have logs and they're on the ground for quite some time. Whenever logs are on the ground, bugs do move into those logs. So whenever I throw logs on here and I'm cutting a bunch of wood for customers, unfortunately. There is a bunch of just random stuff on my sawmill. I do clean it every single time. I bring it back in here, it's ready to go. I get it greased up, oiled up, make sure my rollers are ready to go. The important thing about having a sawmill is knowing how to fix all these things. So there's multiple things on this machine that I've had to have welded because, you know, they break and, you know, they're kind of a vital part of the machine. So you've got to have it welded so you can get the job done, or, you know, do what you need to do. So if it comes out of adjustment or any of the alignment or any of the blade tension or the B57 belt or even the drivetrain belt or the power feed belt, even this chain, so many different factors going with this machine. So knowing how to fix all those things is very vital. I will say I was fortunate enough before I purchased a wood miser. This is my second wood miser. Before I purchased a wood miser, I was taking wood off of a wood miser. So Oklahoma City Sawmill, there was a guy, his name is John Little, and he owned this beautiful property right off the North Canadian River. And for 4 or 5 years, I would take logs to them, and so I'd take logs, they would cut the logs, I'd pick the slabs up, and then I'd have to pay them $300 or $400 or $500 or $600 or whatever the fee was. And you do that dozens of times, hundreds of times throughout the years, you pretty much can probably pay for your own sawmill. So after 4 or 5 years, I need to walk up here so this light doesn't go off. But after 4 or 5 years, you know, I decided to get my own sawmill, and that required me to, am I going to remodel houses? Because at that time, whenever I got a sawmill, I've been remodeling houses for 10 years. And at that time, I was like, well, instead of remodeling houses and selling wood on the side, I wanted full-time wood. So bought the sawmill and you know, sold wood on this, you know, sold wood and cut wood for people, and you know, haven't done anything since. So it's all about, you know, selling wood and cutting wood. And since then, since my LT40 wide with the gasoline engine, you know, I sold it in 2020, and I bought this LT40. And this thing is like a more powerful machine. So this machine won't bog down through any cuts. I can be cutting a 32-inch wide cut, and I can produce a flat cut, and you know, it won't struggle. With my gasoline machine, it might have struggled a little bit. Also, this has a few other features that my machine didn't have, so I'm very thankful for this machine. I've actually cut for hundreds of different people around Oklahoma, so if you have any logs anywhere in Oklahoma, I'll come to your property and I would love to cut your logs. I have lots of references. What's funny is I've actually cut for many people that have sawmills. So they have sawmills, and let's say they cut 4 or 5 logs a day, and that's like a very productive day for them. Well, I come onto their property and I cut 30 or 40 logs a day, 50, 60. I would like to cut 100 logs in a single day. The most I've ever cut was 65. I will say that's all they had on the property. I think I could have cut 100 that day, but they didn't have 100 logs. So if you have 100 logs and you're in the state of Oklahoma, I would like to try to cut them in one day, preferably. They don't have many branches on them, and they're saw logs, and I'm ready to eat through them. So that's kind of a glimpse. This is behind the cut. I am going to reposition you in like 3 minutes over here, because I'm going to do some repositioning of slabs. That's something that I do need to accomplish. One thing I do need to mention. So 3 nights ago, I had a few extra shelves, like these brackets. They're 500-pound brackets. I mounted those and I hung on it. I mounted that and I hung on it, okay? And then I put a slab on it and I hung on it. So it's super solid. I screwed it in place, and there's random things in my storage that kind of were in my, it's super cold right now. It's been like 9 degrees, 15 degrees, and just super cold in Oklahoma. This machine is winterized, ready to go. If I want to eat wood, I can eat wood with this machine. Doesn't matter the temperatures, any single day of the year, rain, sleet, or snow, this machine can produce wood. So ideally, I don't like to go out when it is icy conditions on the roads, because there are times where you'll just like automatically jackknife and you're not even going because your trailer is slipping out from underneath you depending upon the hill or whatever. So icy conditions, I don't like to drive out, but ideally if you have any logs, the weather isn't going to affect me, the mud or anything like that. I do have F350, many references. I promise you guys I've cut for over 200 people in the state of Oklahoma. If you would like to go to like my Instagram page, that's kind of like my main source of like throwing like videos out. I have thousands of videos of this machine cutting thousands of different logs around the state of Oklahoma, primarily walnut logs. So I'm looking forward to my next venture. It's going to consist of me cutting 5 different trees out. So I need to cut these trees out safely. And I also don't want to harm the rest of the forest that I'm cutting these trees out. I've cut hundreds of trees out at this particular location. These are some of the trees that I'm going to need to finish the property. There are still hundreds of other walnut trees, but unfortunately they're small, and I don't want to cut the really small trees out because I want them to kind of grow bigger for the future. And so on and so forth. So, and I've also planted hundreds of different seedlings and saplings out on the property, walnut seeds and saplings on the property. So I'm hoping that the future will look bright in maybe 30 years to maybe do another large harvest. I will say 50 years ago, this property that I'm referencing was logged. So a lot of the trees on the property was logged. And since then, and you can kind of see the remnants of that. So since then, it's kind of refurbished itself, and I was able to selective cut a lot of trees out of the property that needed to be cut out. They're degrading up in the top. You see a tree that has bark that's falling off of the canopy logs up in the top. That's a sign that you probably need to pull that tree out. If you don't pull that tree out, there is a chance that the stem is going to turn yellow and it's not going to be brown. So if you cut a tree out and it's like yellow, that means that the entire tree is degraded. You didn't catch it in time. And the tree doesn't have the structural integrity, depending on how far bad it is. It doesn't have the structural integrity as a typical, solid structural, walnut log. So ideally, you want to pull them out before they get completely degraded in the stem. The best time is like you have like a 40-foot. A tree, like there's 40 foot of log that you can cut out, and like you cut like a 20-foot log, when you cut it, you just see like a little bit of tan or yellow, and you're like, oh my goodness, I got this tree at the perfect time, and that happened so many times with me. So yeah, so I added this shelf, and there was a bunch of random stuff on the ground, and there still is. I just kind of put it up there. There's a lot of camping gear, so I am going to be going out very soon, Monday and Tuesday, and doing my thing, cutting trees out, and it's going to be a nicer situation and still be cold at night, but I have all the gear to make that happen. And whenever I go in the woods, I don't just bring one pair of boots. I'll have 3 pairs of boots, 2 pairs of boots, a pair of shoes. You can't just bring one chainsaw. This is 661, this is 661, and this is just another saw that can eat wood too. You got to have the spare parts for the sawmill. You make sure you have a spare tire for the sawmill. I will say, let's see, what's that? A week and a half ago, I came to my storage unit. Sawmill was leaning hard. I was like, wow. I just came in and just everything was like off. And I noticed there was a flat tire. I aired it up. Couldn't find the leak. Finally noticed on the other side of my storage unit, this big old patch came off my tire. So, obviously I took the wheels off, got brand new 10-ply tires on the sawmill. So there's brand new tires on the sawmill. Thank God that I caught this, because if that would have happened on transit to location on my next venture, then that could have been pretty bad. I do have a spare tire, but knowing that happened to one tire, I didn't want to take the risk and just like replace one tire. Obviously, I'm going to replace 2 tires. So I replaced both of them. They're solid. There's no degraded rubber in them. You can just feel that this is like a degraded piece. This is 5 years old tire. So probably recommend changing the tires in your sawmill every 3 years versus every 5 like I did. And make sure you get good tires, not cheap tires. So that's something that I caught. Thank God that happened in here and didn't happen in transit. But if it did, I would have a spare tire to fix the situation. But I would be nervous because you wouldn't have an additional spare tire to get there or get back to location, so that would be a bad situation. Sawmill's ready to go. Let's flip you around. Like I said, I put a new shelf up to store my camping gear and just a few random things. I do want to put another shelf like right here for my chainsaws, and I have a few burls. Like I have a lot of burls, like just like very highly figured, just very sick burls that like I don't necessarily display. I'm thinking I might display some burls here, and I think that might be a good idea. Like I said, it will be like a 20-minute video. I'm about to switch you guys around so I can resituate that wood. But yeah, so operated out of a 12 by 40. It's unfortunate that, you know, most people are like, when are you going to get land, or when are you going to get a shop? Like, if I wanted to get a shop, it'd make $1,500, $1,600, $1,800 a month. If I want to get land, I do desire to buy land. Me and my wife want to buy land. We're looking, and one day we will buy land. So in the meantime, I do operate a 12 by 40. I don't cut wood in here. Like I said, I bring my sawmill out after I cut wood for people. I take it to the car wash, bring it back in here, and you know, it's ready to go for the next situation. So if I want to bring a random person to my situation, it's going to be here, because I don't want to bring somebody I've never met to my house. I have hundreds of different slabs in my house. It's my private life. You know, my kids are there, my wife's there. Bringing just random people to my house is not like, it doesn't make sense to me. So paying $350 a month for this situation is a no-brainer, because I'm writing it off every year. So having the ability to bring anybody to this location at any particular time that I desire to see wood and sell wood, because I sell lots of wood, it's super nice. So my only overhead is going to be $350. I don't like owe a monthly payment on this. I pay for this in cash. Everything else, you know, I don't like owe money. The only thing I owe, like house, you know, like going into debt for things you can't afford. Like, yeah, I want to go buy a skid steer and like finance it and have a $300 payment every month for a skid steer, but like that doesn't make sense to me. One day I want to like drop like 60 grand on a skid steer, and you know, have the confidence that I don't have that pressure of having to pay the bills for that skid steer, because I didn't have the particular cash flows to purchase it in full. Like, I don't want to like just buy a bunch of random stuff that I can't afford. Like, my only overhead is $350, and I like that, because most people that might have a sawmill like this or have a wood operation, they have $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 in overhead expenses. You know, that's money that's going down the drain. I've spent $0 on marketing my business. Instagram has over 50,000 followers. I spent $0 marketing the business. Like the Reels program, you know, there was a time that, you know, Facebook and Instagram pay me a few hundred dollars a month just for videos and stuff. So like spending money on the business and like maybe like faking your, you know, your growth and how big you look to people by spending money and buying followers. Like, I just think that's just so silly, because so many people do it. 100% organic growth. Haven't spent any money on the business other than the equipment that I have. Let's flip you around. I know I'm rambling. I typically do that. I do need to move some slabs, and let's move some slabs. So we're flipping you around right here. So, okay. I wish I could like pan out a little bit, but anyways, I can't. I don't know really how to use the YouTube Live, like all the functions with it, but I'm learning. So what I'm needing to do is I'm creating my next stack. I don't know exactly what it needs to see, so this is going to be 8 feet long. So 3 different times. You'll want to search for them. It'd be on Instagram, but 3 different times I've had stacks of walnut, 100% walnut, from floor to ceiling. Literally walnut touching the ceiling. That's 15 feet up there, floor to ceiling, 3 different times. I am going to be creating my 4th stack. I told myself I wasn't going to do that, but I am. So I'm going to do it with 5/4 material and 5/4 material only, and I have the trees to do it. So for me to do that, I know that I need to have like 24 inches over here, and that 24 inches is going to be for slabs that I can sell and still have access to. So that's what's going to be over here. And everything else right here, I kind of want to like resituate over there, and eventually it will be, you know, scrambled throughout the unit. So in the meantime, I'm going to have a few slabs. This slab is, you know, like sick, like the crotch figure in this is like wicked. Like if somebody wanted this, I'd be like $100, and if it was 80, I'd be like, okay. So my prices aren't really set. Like a piece like this, like I think I could get maybe $800 or $900 for it for somebody. But if somebody wanted me to give me like $300 or $400 for it, like that'd be the price that it would go for. Like this would be a $100 piece. It's 3 inches thick. It's been cut for 2 inches. Been cut for 2 years. It hasn't been touched the ground or laid on the ground ever in its life, because whenever I cut trees, I slice them up that day. It was in a stack at one point in time. It probably should still be in a stack, being 3 inches thick and only being cut 2 years. It probably needs an entire year to be fully seasoned, if you want to be completely honest. So that's that. This is a slab I'm trying to grab, and you're gonna see me move that wide slab, kind of interesting. This has like a interesting cut, so you gotta flip this around. So this one, you just kind of have to like walk with it. You just gotta make sure you're stable. Like you wouldn't want to be able to like, your body just needs to be in control of this slab, and it takes some time. But just, you know, walk it over here. It is gonna be against the wall. I want to give myself space for that stack I'm still going to be adding to. If you put it too close to the wall, it could potentially fall over if there was a big old wind drift in here, and that'd be a bad situation. You wouldn't want that. It's an awkward slab. This is a 5/4 piece, so we can just put this over here. Like that. To those. You're about to see like 300 blades. There's 300 blades. You're about to see them. They've been used, well, many times, but I've never sharpened them. But, you know, once they're dead, dull, they don't mean much to me. I have thrown away probably 100, just because, let's say you have a few hundred walnut slabs in your truck and your trailer, and you have a few blades, and they're really spent. There's a dumpster right there, and you're just like fully loaded with walnut, and you're going to throw a few blades away. I've definitely done that 100 times, or so, 100 or 200 actually. Get all those leaned up over there, and I can realize like what my stack's gonna look like. You know, I told you this is 8 feet. So I need to have 8 feet by 8 feet. It's gonna be a complete square, and it goes straight up, and it's gonna be hugging over here more. So I'm not going to be able to complete it tonight, but I will move the tire and the chair and a few things that are kind of situated right here. But in the meantime, this is a cedar board from like 6 or 7 years ago. My buddy Derek said he wanted it, so I marked on it for it sold. He never got it. You know what? Look, I said $20. Just bring it against the wall. But yeah, so there's a bunch of blades here. So this is how I like to store my blades. I actually need this one right here. So this one, I need to add to it. I have some more. And I like to do face up. I have this little jig right here. So, no, 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 no. We need to put it over here. Yeah. And I have a couple blades, so I'll untie those, and you get the blade, you throw it right there, you just loop it in there. And that's the best way to, store, one-use blades. So like I said, there's a few hundred blades right here. Some of these things have 30 in them. So that's kind of how I store the blades. I've thought about maybe getting like knives or something made out of them, like somebody forging them into knives for me, but one day I do have the desires to have a sharpener, spend like $5,000 on the best sharpener you can get, and you just have this machine, you put this blade on, and it just runs around, it just sharpens it, it sets it for itself, you just take it off, put it on its situation, put a new one on there. So I'm going to keep all these blades, I'm not going to get rid of them. One day I will resharpen all these blades, and I'll just have like an unlimited amount of blades. But for the meantime, 100% brand new blades is all I run on the machine, and I just keep it like that because time is money. I don't have the desires or the time to do that, but one day I will whenever I have the space. It would take up probably like a 10 by 10 space. I would want to have everything. I would want to have a little workbench, and I would need to have 10 by 10 space allocated for that. That would, right now, my current stance, that would be either my garage, which I wouldn't want that to be in my garage, so I'm willing to pay $27 a blade right now. But one day, I'll change that. But for the meantime, that's kind of behind the cut. Let's talk about the things that I need to bring into the wood. So, I'm going to bring 2 boots, multiple pair of socks, multiple hoodies, jackets, pillow, blanket, cushions, tent, multiple guns, I'm always strapped, and yeah, just, sometimes there's hogs out there. It's in the probably 70 miles to a hospital, so I'm not necessarily scared of, animals. I'm just, the people are just, you can't trust people. So sometimes random people will be coming through, and the people that own the property aren't necessarily most able people. I treat them well, I pay them well, and they let me have 24/7 access on their property. And that's actually the case for a few people. So I can go on the properties anytime I want. I respect these properties, honest with these properties, and I actually help a lot of people out. Some people just can't keep up with, managing their trees, and I come in and, manage their trees. I love managing people's trees. So that's the situation. Being in the woods by myself sometimes can be sketchy. It's not the safest thing to do. I am always wearing chaps, helmet, doing the proper cuts. I'm always videoing my trees every time I fall them. I have thousands of different videos I haven't even posted because it's just anyways. Yeah, so that's kind of a behind the cut. So just have everything you need, your boots, your pants, anything that could get wet, and let's say you don't have it, you probably need to make sure you have it, and that's going to be 3 different chainsaws, all the tools to work these chainsaws, the oils, plenty of diesel, a spare tire for the truck, spare tire for the sawmill, spare tire for the trailer, everything that you could possibly think of, you need to have. Lots of water, you need to have, I'll bring 4 or 5 different ribeyes, and you'll go to town a few times just to maybe eat breakfast. Sometimes I go into town around 5 o'clock in the morning. My favorite time is going into town around 5 o'clock in the morning because that's when the older people are in town. They're at those old gas stations in small towns. You can talk to so many different landowners, and it gives you lots of opportunities. So there's many times, anytime I bring this machine out, I'm talking to somebody guaranteed 100% of the time if I stop. I'm always trying to talk to people and just figure out a way, how can I harvest your trees? If you want me to harvest your trees, you take half the wood. If you're going to help on 100% of the time, you can take 50% of the wood. I'll cut the tree down, you can take 50% of the wood, you help the entire time. That's the best situation you can get without having to fork over any dollars. Now, if you have logs and you want to pay me to cut your logs, it's going to be $100 an hour. I'm happy to do that. I'll touch all the wood. I'll put it wherever you want. You're going to pay me $100 an hour. But if you want me to harvest wood from your property and you don't want to pay anything, it's a 50-50 situation. I cut the trees down, I slice them up, and you get 50% of the wood, I get 50% of the wood. And that's only if you're doing work. You're not going to get a 50% share of slabs on your entire property not doing any work. It'd be a lower percentage than that. So, and if you don't want any other wood, I'll buy all your logs. I love buying logs, so I'll buy every single log on your property. Anybody in the state of Oklahoma, I'll buy every log on your property. Reach out to me at 405-562-0707. Zach Wicks, many references. Wood is kind of like my life. Ask my wife. Me and my wife and kids are one day we are going to have like a family situation where maybe you kind of see what's going on there. My son knows how to kind of work the wood miser. He knows everything about it. Lily's pretty cute, and she's never operated, but Weston has operated it. So one day Weston will help me do that. He has been in the woods with me. We've cut logs on the sawmill together. It's a pretty good time. So that's really fun. So that's what I'm going to be doing this week. Lots of logs I need to cut. I won't be coming home until that truck. I'm not bringing the trailer. That truck. There'll be wood as tall as the cab of the truck. That's the F350 XL. So I'm bringing lots of 5/4 material back. It's going to be stacked right here. I have to kind of situate this. Put a couple blades in this coil. I don't want to do that today. You see the coils, you see the wood. Let's flip you around for the wood miser in this situation. I appreciate you guys. I don't know why so many people are still here, but I appreciate you. God bless you guys. Just a guy with a wood miser. It's my second wood miser. Let's talk about the wood miser. You want to see it? Let's get you off this. Yeah, there you go. My bad. So this is the EcoFlow. This will like battery and power you up anywhere you go. I have 5 of them. So whenever I go in the woods, I'll bring multiple of them. I have solar panels to repower them if I need to. But yeah, so the wood miser, a little dusty. I cut a few logs. I didn't wash it. No need to. They're fresh logs. If it's fresh, there's no sign of bugs. I don't clean it. But yeah. You got the AccuSet 2. If I want to cut 1 1/4 inch material every single time, just flip that lever down, you just cut. You got to learn it, but you can do it. You'll make mistakes, but you'll be able to overcome those mistakes. These are produced from the Lucas Mill. So I have another sawmill, 76-inch wide cutting capacity. I've cut 20-foot logs that are 72 inches wide. They filled my entire 22-foot trailer. It was like massive. But anyway, so like these are like big slabs, but I like bigger wood than this. Like let's say 44 inches wide by 10 feet. Like that's a nice specimen of wood. 34 is nice, but ideally you want a 40-inch table. So if I get a 40-inch wide walnut log, that's going to be ideal. 40-inch wide walnut log shouldn't be cut on this machine. It should be cut on the Lucas Mill or bandsaw that can achieve single cut, no live edge cut off, situation. This is the spikes to climb the tree. Helmet, camping gear. Here's some 5/4 material. And just all these blades, I could probably put quite a few of those blades on. They'd still cut wood, but they're not. I'm not satisfied with just any cut. I want the cut to be really well, and if it's not making me happy, I'm gonna take the blade off and I'm gonna change it. Truck's ready to go. Somebody hit me. Somebody hit my truck. I was selling them a table.
After they bought my $40 table, like a random little table, garage sale table, to hit my truck, insurance sent me a $4,400 check. And what do you think I did with that $4,400 check? Let's talk about that. I know I probably shouldn't ramble. I said 15 minutes. It's 34 minutes. Live stream. Yeah, so every time I sell a piece of walnut, and this has been for years, every single time I sell wood, I buy Bitcoin. This is no lie. Every time I sell a piece of walnut, I buy Bitcoin. And the reason is it just doesn't make sense not to. The amount of printing that they do. This machine in 2020 cost me $40,000. Right now, it would cost me $60,000 to replace. So you see a $20,000 situation from 2020 to 2024 and 2025. $20,000 additional just to buy this machine. So anytime I sell a piece of walnut, I instantly buy Bitcoin, and that's just what I do. So I don't know kind of how I got into that. I do need to look into my phone and kind of check that situation out. I've always leveraged trading. So like as far as like cutting wood and like doing that, I'm always stacking hardware wallet, but leverage trading Bitcoin. Like I'm trading Bitcoin every single day. I make a lot of money when Bitcoin goes down. You make the most money when Bitcoin goes down if you're short in that particular moment. You need to mitigate your risk. You need to have your stop loss in place, and so on and so forth. So anyways, so that's I love doing that. I do that every day. I do it every single day, and cut wood and sell wood. And every time I sell a piece of walnut, I buy Bitcoin, and that's been for the past few years. So that's kind of my ramble. If you want any walnut, I would love to sell you some walnut, give you an idea of price. This would be $100. This is dry. It's been cut for over 2 years, and it's 5/4, $100, $200, $300. If you wanted a pair, which is a book match, they're not set up like this. Needs to be done something like this. Like now, you can see it's a book match pair. If you wanted just a single slab, I would sell you a single. I'll split it up, but you're going to pay $300 for this piece. If you wanted the pair, $500 takes the set. $700, $700, and everything else is $100, $60, $80, so on and so forth. So I've sold over 10,000 slabs in the past 10 years, and it's just kind of my little business. Very small scale, no pressure as far as having to have a payment on the machine. Or anything like that, only having to have the storage unit for you have to pay the storage unit every month. Other than that, just be productive, cut wood, be safe, always be looking up and be conscious of what's going on. If you are cutting trees, don't get ahead of yourself. Make sure you're cutting them down properly. Ideally, you have somebody with you. Whenever trees do require dismantling in the canopy, I bring my buddy on site, and he climbs the trees and tops the trees, so I can safely fall this stem in between other trees and pull it out with damaging a 12 or 14-inch walnut tree that we're not targeting. So that happens very often. On this venture, all these trees are no need for that. I'm going to be able to drop them exactly where they need to go. We don't need to dismantle them. There's no other trees that are going to be affected, so I don't need to do that. So it's going to be a really fun time in the woods. I love going to the woods because you just have time with God. I love Jesus and stuff like that, and it's a great time to just kind of reflect on things. And I'm very productive when I'm by myself, reducing and cutting trees down, pulling them out, making a log deck, and cutting with the sawmill. So that's just kind of a glimpse of behind the cut. We have been going for almost 40 minutes. It's a large ramble. First time I ever did a thumbnail, it was just a picture of the sawmill. I never knew how to do that, so I just learned. I do plan on bringing you live whenever I have this machine set up in the woods. I have a way to get the hotspot so I can have service. Usually I don't have service wherever I go. I think I figured out a way so I can have a hotspot, and I can have Wi-Fi, and I can have the ability to live stream where I go. So I will be doing that in 2025. And yeah, guys, man, thank you so much for subscribing. Over 1,500 subscribers, just taking videos of this machine and the things that I do. I didn't necessarily know that I'd have people following along and subscribing. I wish I had really cool, fancy videos with intros and stuff like that. It's just kind of a glimpse of, blue collar, business. Very niche. Some people are like, a sawmill? There's not saw logs where I'm at. You look around me, you drive a mile that way, you won't see like dozens of saw logs. So it's a very niche business. I love what I do. So like, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life, and that's been the case for 15 years. I love remodeling houses. Unfortunately, I don't like remodeling houses for people anymore. I'm going to remodel a house that's going to be for my own properties. I love remodeling my own properties. I love remodeling my house. Everything in my house has been remodeled by myself, so I love doing that. I just don't want to do it for people because I don't necessarily have a passion for staying on jobs for 3 or 4 weeks. I've thought about kind of opening up again on small-time jobs, going in and doing punch lists, making $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 a day, doing one-day jobs for customers. I have a large customer base. I've thought about opening that back up, and I very well might do that. Just small jobs, but as far as getting into kitchen remodels and bathroom remodels and pouring shower pans and doing tile and being on jobs for 3 or 4 weeks, and then like having like a 40-inch walnut log pop up. Like, oh my goodness, I gotta go get that. I don't really like to be tied down for large stretches of time because I do have the ability to save any tree any day of the year that I desire if one comes my way. Trees come my way every single day. I decline a lot of trees because they're just not my targeted tree. The only tree that I'm particularly interested in is the walnut tree because I have limited space. So if I have limited space and I fill a bunch of elm logs and oak logs and all these different things, well, where are my walnut logs and walnut slabs going to be? Because I have many walnut trees that I have to process and harvest. So I have to particularly just stay on the walnut tree. And I do love to plant the walnut tree. I have over 15,000 viable seeds at my house right now that I've collected over the past 10 years. They're just like viable seeds. Like I put them in the ground, and a seedling, sapling starts to grow. Ideally, if it's in the perfect spot, you can't just put it in like barren land where it's like just clay and there's no like water for that seed to get nutrients. So like you have to plant your seeds in the proper spot. That's very ideal. I do put a bunch of seeds in a particular area of my house. And instead of putting them in pots, I put them in the ground, and whenever they pop up, I'm able to transplant them and do my thing with them. So that's a more efficient way for me to do my saplings every year, and that's been going on for the past 2 years. Versus the pots, I remember having 50 different pots. You gotta move them around. They're eating up the grass can't grow, and so on and so forth. So having them in this location is great. I love planting the walnut tree. I love cutting the walnut tree. I don't think you should cut the small walnut trees. Let's cut the bigger walnut trees. Let's save the smaller ones so they get bigger. Let's kind of prevent like what happens in other states. And that since it's a huge ramble, it's probably going to be an hour-long ramble. So I don't know if this is valuable to you guys or not, but the one thing that I'm passionate about is in the other states outside of Oklahoma, there's a thing called thousand cankers disease. So thousand cankers disease in other states, I think it's in Oklahoma, but it's not. They say it's not. But thousand cankers comes in and it kills a tree in 3 years. So if thousand cankers disease is killing lots of walnut trees around the country, and people are targeting the trees, what's the likelihood that we're going to be seeing lots of 40-inch white walnut trees when we're walking through the woods in the years to come? I just want bigger trees. Let's harvest more mature trees. Let's plant trees. Let's harvest properly. Let's just try to do the best we can for the surrounding things that we see. Sometimes whenever you clear cut an area, and I actively see it all the time, you reduce the moisture content in that particular area, and it changes the situation. So ideally, if you're coming into a forest, a few hundred acres, you're going to come in and select the proper trees that need to be cut out. You're not going to cut every single tree out. You're going to select 20 trees out of 20 acres. You're going to harvest those trees out properly. You're not going to damage the other trees that are young and you're going to do that properly, get out properly, not have a huge mess. I've seen 3 or 4 different times around Oklahoma, people harvest trees, and after they harvest the trees, let's say the tree lands in another tree, they leave the top in another tree, hung up in another tree, dangling 12 feet in the air, and the stem's gone, but the mess is a liability for the landowner, and they're nowhere to be found. So you're gonna leave that landowner with such a liability like that, a huge top of a walnut tree hung up in other trees, dangling, and the stems removed. So a lot of times it happens all the time. People reach out to me after loggers come to their property. They reach out to me and they try to sell me the logs that the loggers didn't want. So it happens all the time. I'm thankful for them reaching out to me. I wish they would have reached out to me before the loggers came on there. I do know a few people that do a very great job as far as mass acreage, harvesting trees. Do a great job. They respect the land. They're properly cutting these trees out. They're not neglecting all the other trees around them, and doing things proper. But I will say a lot of people are not doing things proper. So if we can just try to plant trees and take out selective harvest trees and not just cut every single tree out that we see. I know many people that cut 12-inch wide walnut trees out. They cut every walnut tree on their property. But anyway, so you do what you do. That's fine. I think that everybody has the desire and the free will to do whatever they want with their land, but maybe keep the 12-inch wide walnut trees. Maybe in 30 years, they're 30-inch wide walnut trees, and then you can cut them. So that's just kind of my philosophy. Orange Ramble. Wood Miser. This is a diesel engine. It eats wood. It just does a fantastic job. I lift some massive logs with this machine, just absolutely massive. 10,000-pound logs. Sometimes there's been a few times where if you have this jack with you, you have to assist it. Just get it up like 6 inches, and if you are doing this, assuming I'm doing it for myself, which it happens all the time, I'm gonna have that jack. I'm gonna assist the log, and then I'm gonna have a string. So I'm gonna tie a string to this lift, hydraulic lever, and I'll be over here and I'll have a string, and I'll be jacking, and I'll be able to pull the string, and it'll lift the lifting arms. When I'm over here trying to assist this log to get on, because there's not a second person there, so you gotta improvise. So I got lots of paracord and stuff like that, and you just tie a string and just do your thing, and you finally get the log on. And then whenever you get really big logs on, and if you're by yourself, just plan to potentially spend a few hours just on that one particular log, because sometimes you can't, once the big log like that gets on this machine, the other mechanisms, like even this or even this, like all things won't work, and you won't be able to move it. So you'll just have to whittle it down, finally you'll be able to get it turned, whittle it down, and then finally you're able to just produce a lot of great cuts. So it's fantastic. Cut 20-foot logs before. Some people have extensions for this machine, so I could get an extension where if I was in timber country and I need to cut 40-foot poles and stuff, you could cut as long as you desired. You just have to increase your chain, you'd have to increase all your supports, and you have to buy the things to extend this. And they sell all that. Wood Miser is a fantastic company. I wouldn't get anything but a Wood Miser. If you want to get an entry-level mill, I'd recommend an LT15 wide. LT15 wide would be great, because that's assuming you have a tractor, you have maybe a little homestead. You can come to that mill, roll log on, and you'll be able to cut your logs. You don't have to spend $60,000 for a machine like this, or $80,000, $90,000 for an LT70, which is not really needed. So there are lower entry point mills. LT15 I think is around $10,000. So make sure you get the wide. That's very important. Getting the wide head. Like 34 inches wide, you can cut with that LT15, I believe. So I think that's a perfect entry level mill. One day, whenever I have land, I actually might have that as a supplemental mill. not for anything special, just for a certain situation. You have a certain jig lined up on it, and all you're cutting on it is a certain thing. So I think it's a great tool to have. You know, LT15Y would be a great complementary mill for me if I had land skidster and I was rock and rolling. So that's kind of my spiel. You really want to keep this machine undercover. All this stuff will rust out. I know a lot of people that they keep their machines out. This orange is fading, that's fine, but you're not gonna, you might, if you want to sell the machine, you know, you might not get the top dollar. You're gonna have rust in there. Your roller's gonna get rusty. Certain things are gonna start living in your machine. Maybe rats and things are gonna chew through wires. Like so, I like to keep my machine undercover. It always stays undercover. The only time this machine is out is I'm gonna be sleeping outside if this machine is sleeping outside. If I get a flat tire on the side of the road, I will not be leaving until this machine comes with me. So that you gotta be prepared for that. You gotta have food in the truck, you gotta have the flat tire, you gotta have the jack, you gotta have the spare tires, you gotta have everything you need. Anything that could happen. One time, I was in the woods all by myself. I cut lots of wood. I had a trailer and sawmill at location. Started raining. Couldn't get out of the location. Just to get hooked up to my trailer was difficult. I finally got hooked up to my trailer. I had to put slabs underneath my wheels. Slabs I had on my trailer that I cut, logs I cut, slabs I cut with the sawmill. Slabs underneath my wheels just to get out of location. So I actually really enjoy very hard conditions when it comes to working, because I've been working manual labor my entire life, and I've been working with myself for over 15 years. So whenever, let's say it's 10 degrees or -5 degrees, those things, I don't mind those. It's oh, I gotta stay inside. I'm ready to do whatever I need to do to get the job done. So it started raining on me. I needed to pull some slabs off the trailer. Did that. Got out of the situation. Came back 4 or 5 days later. Picked up the slabs, and yeah. So I am going back out to that property, and every time I go out there, I draw blood. Something always happens. I wear gloves a lot, but you're always drawing blood. Anytime I use this machine, I'm typically something's gonna happen. You're gonna smash your finger. You're gonna get a cut. You're gonna get just something's gonna happen. It's just you gotta be prepared for anything. So yeah, and sometimes it's super windy, and I like to bring my portable grill. So I have a little portable grill, and I bring charcoal and heat up the steaks. A lot of the times you dig a hole wherever you're falling the trees, and you start a fire, and that's kind of where you're going to camp out. And you got to just be mindful of the cattle that are on the property, and just be mindful of the fields. And let's say if they're harvesting wheat or whatever they're doing, you don't want to mess up people's properties. I've seen people just fall trees in people's cornfields or whatever, and just leave the tops there and just take the stems. That's uncalled for. Pick up your mess. If you're gonna do something right. Don't shoot a 12-point buck and just cut the head off and leave the meat. Whenever I shoot a buck, I gut it, I process it, and do everything myself. I don't take it anywhere, and I make every single piece of meat into jerky. So that's kind of like that. So I'm never gonna tell somebody to do something I've never done myself. I've had multiple employees before. I do have somebody that will go with me anytime I need somebody in the woods with me. I do have a right-hand man. He's a great guy, fantastic. He can climb any tree, very good with the chainsaw. He's good with catastrophic tree damage, tornado, hurricane. He traveled the country and takes care of trees that are on houses. After the hurricane goes, there's lots of different situations that are very hazardous, and there's power lines involved, and there's cranes involved. He'll cowboy up and get on the end of a crane, the ball of the crane, and have to do certain picks just to get the job done. So very safe guy, but he is a cowboy, and he just fantastic. Having him in the woods with me is great, because it's very safe to cut wood when you have 2 people. What I'm about to do this week isn't necessarily the safest. but I've done it hundreds of times, so I'm not gonna let that bother me. Just be safe. Make sure you have your helmet on. Make sure you have your chaps on. Make sure you're following these trees properly. We talked about, I'm gonna be doing my face cut. I'm gonna come in. You can't just think you're gonna plunge cut. You can't just put your saw straight into a tree and think you're gonna plunge cut. My saw is gonna be going, and then I'm gonna start making this angle, and I'm gonna just start boring this tree out. Once I, exit the other side, I'm gonna bore all this stuff out, and depending upon the tree, I'm gonna place wedges in here. After I, bore everything out, my hinge is formed, my face cut's situated, my hinge is formed, I'm bored out, I have my trigger. I hit that trigger, and 99% of the time the trees go where I tell them to go. So you need to do that properly. Your cuts need to be level and square. Sometimes if your cut isn't level and proper, sometimes it works against you. If I put my cut downhill and it should have been flat, like square level, that downhill cut could potentially affect you with getting this tree to topple over, and then you're sitting here trying to axe away, hitting your wedges, trying to get this tree to topple. So that has happened, but ideally you don't want this tree to move until it's completely severed. So many people face cut, they come in from here, it's right here, this tree starts to move and all these cracks start to form. This is the pith, so this isn't from that anyways. So, and I actually didn't even fall this tree, but so it's really important that you plunge cut your trees, you form your hinge properly, you set your trigger, pop your trigger, and your trees go. But if those trees move at all before any stuff is done, you're gonna cause cracks in the tree. And a lot of times people, they reach out to me at least once a week. Somebody will reach out to me, they want to sell me logs, and you'll see the stumps or you'll see the butt end of the log, and you'll just see all these cracks in them. You kind of tell a story. So I'm not really interested in buying a bunch of logs that just have a bunch of cracks in them because they're improperly harvested. I particularly want to cut the trees down myself. That's the only way that I have any interest in the logs. I want to cut the trees down myself and process them that day, or that day or the next day. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days to cut quite a few logs. So anyways, I appreciate you guys tuning in. The lights are probably gonna go off, and I just keep rambling, so we're gonna end it. God bless you guys.